Welcome to CHTA Live, the Resilience Series, bringing you practical content to support strategies and solutions to guide your recovery plans. My name is Vanessa Ledesma, Chief Operations Officer for the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association. Thank you for taking time to join us. Our topic today is Future Perspectives in the UK Market. Before we proceed with the session, let's go over a few housekeeping items. All participants have been muted. You are encouraged to submit your questions for the panelists during the webinar by submitting them via the Q&A box. Questions will be addressed at the end of the session. The on-demand video recording of today's presentation, along with the presentation itself, will be distributed within 48 hours of the webinar. The session is scheduled through 3:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we hope you're able to join us through the end. We take this opportunity to invite you to our COVID-19 resource page, where we continue to load information, data, and resources to facilitate readiness, training, and recovery. We do want to spotlight our travel advisory section, where up-to-the-minute information on destination and CHTA hotel member opening dates is being loaded. If you are a CHTA hotel member, please make sure that you submit your information on opening dates as well as capacity and occupancy by sending them to membership@caribbeanhotelandtourism.com. CHTA and the COVID-19 Caribbean Tourism Task Force have launched the guidelines and checklists for reopening Caribbean travel and tourism. These are available to download on the CHTA website and include detailed standards for all tourism sectors, as well as individual sections by segments: ground transportation, accommodation, food and beverage, and recreation and entertainment, inclusive of sites and attractions. Each section includes detailed checklists that facilitate your internal review and implementation of these guidelines. While we understand that your destination or business may have your own set of protocols, these are meant to complement those. A special thanks to CHTA strategic partners for their continued support of our programs and towards the industry. We also want to make you aware of CaribbeanTravel.com, our consumer-facing platform that is a one-stop shop for consumers to explore and book with our 33 destination partners. Hotel listings on CaribbeanTravel.com are a free hotel benefit for members, and we encourage you to participate. If you are looking for a higher increase in exposure, there are opportunities to feature your property as a travel log. Your property's head of marketing would work directly with CHTA's writer to create a great custom feature on CaribbeanTravel.com. We welcome your comments and takeaways in our social platforms using the hashtag CHTA Live. Make sure to tag CHTA as shown on the screen. We invite you to mark your calendars for the following sessions. Tomorrow is the first of a three-part series where we'll be discussing entrepreneurial opportunities in food and beverage, and we're starting with beverage. The session is at 4:30, and at 6 p.m. the discussion will move on to Facebook for Liming with Taste, a great happy hour with our Taste of the Caribbean mixologists. Next Thursday, we will be discussing minimizing risk with waivers and protocols. Be on the lookout for the information. Today's session was developed to provide you insights into an important market as you look at opportunities for expansion and increased business. Our moderator is no stranger to the industry nor CHTA, as he is a passionate CHTA ambassador. Richard Williams has served as a past elected CHTA officer and for many years past chairman of the CHA Marketing Committee, during which time both Marketplace and the original Gold Book were founded. He has received the recognition of Caribbean Hotelier of the Year and currently serves as a member on the CHTA Director Emeritus Council. For his day job, Richard is the founder of Richard Williams & Associates, with offices in the Caribbean, Florida, and New York. The firm provides management, marketing, and developmental services to the hotel, travel, and tourism industries. Richard, thank you so much for joining us today, for taking the lead in the discussion, and for also developing the session to benefit our members and the industry overall. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. It's great to have everybody here, and I haven't seen the actual numbers, but I hope we have thousands of people out there listening to us. So I'd like to start off by giving a little bit of an overview on the UK, and want to leave you with some thoughts that you could develop post after the show. If we could go to the next slide, please. And following the Caribbean, the slide right after that. So in the United Kingdom, today's discussion is really about what might we achieve in a post-COVID world? What would our best desires be? And especially in a world where really the Eastern Caribbean seems to do most of the business out of the United Kingdom. But there are so many opportunities for others in the Northern Caribbean. And especially if we can work together as a region to get all of Europe involved in better air service to these islands of ours. Next slide. The travelers from the UK, but also from Europe, stay for longer with us when they come. There's an average stay of somewhere between 8 to 9 to 12 nights invariably. They have at least an equivalent or higher daily spend, and they're very culturally simpatical for the things that we offer, the things that we value as a people in the Caribbean. And most importantly for us, they travel year round, and they especially travel during the summer months of July and August. Next slide. So really, I just wanted to highlight at the beginning of today's presentation that what I see as the potential of Europe to the Caribbean. Next slide. Today, Europe gets to the Caribbean largely over London. Yes, there are services with KLM and Air France and Condor and perhaps a couple of others, but there isn't the volume of traffic coming into the region that we should really aspire to as a tourism-based destination. Today, most of the traffic that is available will come in and connect either over Heathrow and Gatwick, and it's very different. Those connections are challenging for flights that are leaving for the Caribbean at about 10:30 to 11:30 during the morning London time. Next slide. The thought I wanted to leave us with is shown on this slide. If we can work together over the next year or two to build a variety of Caribbean-centric hubs, not just London itself, but we've already got Norwegian Air operating out of Oslo, and we could do so much to attract business from many of the other major cities in there. And for that reason, many years ago, the Caribbean Tourism Organization introduced a Caribbean village at ITB in Berlin. And I don't think that we have the kind of presence today that we did many years ago in this region. So it really is going to require a lot of thought on the part of CHTA, on the part of its marketing leadership, to figure out how we're going to address this. Next slide. So the point of the whole thing is that it isn't just the United Kingdom that we're talking about today and its air service, but we're also talking about the opportunities that might come to us as a region from the wider tourism theater. So if we go to into our panelists right now, we've got 4 panelists who have very kindly agreed to join us today. I'm going to introduce them one at a time as they go into their individual presentations, although you can probably see their photographs up on the screen. The first panelist I'd like to introduce is Victoria Cranmer, and Victoria is the owner of Paradise Promotions. Victoria has agreed to give us what is essentially a marketplace overview for the United Kingdom. She has 20+ years of experience in travel and specifically into the Caribbean. When she launched Paradise Promotions 15 years ago, her vision was to create a small boutique style agency to ensure that she kept a personal relationship with each agent. This approach has worked well and the company has developed over the years. Paradise Promotions is now representing a number of independent properties across the islands of St. Lucia, Barbados, St. Kitts, and Dominica. Victoria has built her business together with her dedicated team on really a can-do attitude, and the relationships that they have developed with travel agents and tour operators in the UK are testimony to her success. She's constantly adapting to the needs of a changing market, ensuring that each client is always at the forefront of the media, the travel trade, and of course, the consumer minds. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Victoria Cranmer.
Thank you, Richard, and good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on whereabouts you are in the world. I hope everybody can hear me okay. It's a real pleasure to be here today to give you an overview of the UK market and to be able to share some potential trends and preferences as we come out of COVID. If I could go to the first slide, please. So this is just really an overview of the UK. So we have a population of 66 million. The average salary in London is 37,000 a year, and 76% of people in the UK, in England and Wales, have a passport, which is a great number. We have an average of 5.6 weeks of paid holiday a year, and I think Britons are really prolific travellers, and according to some data from the International Air and Transport Association in 2018, 1 in 12 of all international travellers was British. If I could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So I put this slide in because I wanted to show you kind of just briefly how we've come through COVID and where our journey is now. And you can see that, you know, we're cautiously optimistic that we are over the worst of this, but we do understand that we have to stay very much aware of social distancing and the protocols in place. And I would say that 90% of people in the UK are definitely doing that when they go out and about and wearing their masks and things. If I could go to the next slide, please. So as we come out of COVID, our economy obviously is a big factor, particularly when people are spending money on holidays. And we're really fortunate that we have a very strong leader in Boris Johnson. He's promised that he will not take the country into austerity to help get us through COVID, but he's going to build, he's going to invest in industry, and that's really, really important. And he's backed up by our Chancellor, who has an economic recovery package, which he launched just a few days ago, and that comes on the back of the job retention scheme. So they really are doing everything they can to make sure that they manage the economy as we come through this huge task. If I can go to the next slide, please. So I just put this slide together because it just gives you some dates that were very important as we came out of COVID, or as we still continue to come out of COVID. So you can see how the destination is opening up again. But I think what's really lovely to see and what's really important is that now that we're starting to see people go off on holiday again, we're seeing news coverage of people at airports, of people getting on aeroplanes, of people lying on beaches. And I think the more that we see those images on our screens and in our media, the more it normalizes the idea of traveling again. And that's really key to build consumer confidence. If I could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a run through of the makeup of the UK travel industry. So we have our high street travel agents, which are made up from both multiples and independents. And then we have home workers. Now, home workers is a really growing area in the UK. And we actually now, even pre-COVID, a number of the tour operators had home working res agents as well. We have our traditional tour operators, of course, which sell both direct and via the travel agents. Now, one thing to note is that the travel agents in the UK book through tour operators more than they would book directly with a resort. So it's important that we have those elements dovetailing into one another. And then, of course, we have the OTAs and we have concierge as well. And concierge is very important for the high-end market. Now, one thing to note, 75% of Caribbean long-haul bookings come via our tour operators. So that's why we put a lot of attention on the relationships that we build with both travel agents and tour operators. If I could have the next slide, please. Thank you. So how do travel agents and independent small tour operators, how will they be even more relevant post-COVID? And I think what we've already started to see in the market is that they are already becoming very busy with inquiries. You know, they've been telling us that they're getting a lot of inquiries in. And I think it's primarily because when this happened, the smaller tour operators and the travel agents were able to maintain a personal relationship with their clients. They were able to call them before the client called the tour operator. And in the majority of cases, they were able to work with the client to rebook their holiday at a later date rather than just cancelling it, which we saw, unfortunately, with some of the bigger operators that were just inundated and they didn't have the ability to work with their clients in that way. I think having that point of contact and personal relationship is really making a difference for our travel agents and tour operators. For example, I was on the phone to Lisa at Elegant Resorts just last week, and she told me that they've had a number of clients who used to book with Elegant Resorts. They then started booking directly with the hotel, and now they've come back to them to book their next holiday, and they've said the reason they've done that is because they feel that Elegant Resorts will have their back. If anything goes wrong, they know they're in safe hands. In addition to that, another example, we have travel counsellors. So travel counsellors have more than 1,900 independent agents worldwide, of which I think about 1,300 are based in the UK. Now, they've had some great media coverage throughout COVID in the way that they dealt with their customers during the crisis. And talking to one of our TCs at the weekend, she actually said she had 4 inquiries from potential new clients, all of which would have done it themselves in the past, but all of which now want to book through a travel agent because they know that they will have less risk involved. So if I could move to the next slide. How do we reach these all important agents? Now, at the moment, sales calls and face-to-face trainings are still off the agenda, although that is starting to change. But we've been doing a combination of social media marketing and webinars. In fact, I did a webinar today and we had an uptake in agents. It was back to about 66 on the call, which was fantastic to see. But I think what's important when you do these webinars, because we have noticed a bit of a tail off and a bit of webinar fatigue, is that we take the agent to the destination. We have the general manager on the call. They're often doing a walk around. So you're really building on the relationship, and again, building on that confidence with the agents so that they can see the product and talk to the GMs and the team there. Another thing to consider is that travel agents are often the very first ones to fly again and to travel again. And we've seen that. We've been quite inundated actually over the last week to 10 days with travel agents asking us if they can come and stay in different properties. They want to see the islands again. And I think if they've been and they come back, they'll be talking to their clients and they'll be saying, hey, I've just had the most incredible experience. It was amazing. You don't need to worry. It's a completely safe destination. So I think encouraging the trade to come out and stay at your destinations and within the hotels is really important at the moment as well. Next slide, please. So what will the consumer preferences be as we move through COVID? And I think the first thing to say about the UK market is it's in our blood to always want to go on holiday. It's really part of our DNA. And we've seen that historically throughout lots of different crises, that the Brits will always take their holiday if they possibly can. So we know that we have a lot of pent-up demand for people that do want to travel. What we also know is that when the UK market travels, they really want to get it to familiar with the history and the culture of the destination. They don't want to come and sit next to other British people at the bar and eat fish and chips. They want to meet with the locals. They want to go to the local restaurants. They want to find the best places to go. And they want to feel they've had a truly immersive experience. We've also seen a huge uptake in couples and families, particularly multi-generational families, coming through as well. So people that have been not able to see each other over the past couple of months wanting to come on and have that special time together. So in all, I think the UK has a huge amount of low-hanging fruit for the Caribbean. Next slide, please. So I put this slide in just to really show you the sentiment of the British traveller. This was just after we started to ease lockdown, and at that point we couldn't get away on holiday, but we had a few days of sunshine, and it just shows the extent of how much, you know, the Brit will want to go and feel as if they're on holiday, even if they can't physically fly there. So next slide, please. So on the path to recovery, and what does it look like? So what we've seen from our trade partners, it's kind of from June onwards, they advised that they were starting to see those green shoots. They were starting to get busier. Most of the bookings that we've been seeing coming in are for travel in 2021. There is some appetite for travel in late 2020. However, the numbers are much more significant from kind of November onwards. And what's driving these bookings? You know, it definitely seems to be flexibility within the cancellation policies for Q4 and also into 2021, and also trust. It's all about the hygiene protocols. You know, people want to know that they're in place and that they'll be safe going through the airports, through to the hotels and around the destinations. Next slide, please. So opportunities and future trends as we emerge. We anticipate that the consumer will prioritise a new set of values. We're expecting that sustainability is going to grow. It was already starting to grow before COVID. I think it will really, really grow afterwards. There'll be an increase, we think, in mindfulness and wellness experiences as well. We mentioned before a new focus on multi-generational travel for families and friends that have been separated. Villas and residences, places that offer space for travellers, they are selling really, really well. at the moment, and islands that offer space and lower levels of infection. I think the Caribbean have done an outstanding job in keeping COVID at bay and keeping it out of the Caribbean, and that is really going to be a wonderful thing for the Brits to want to come out and spend time in the Caribbean. It's a great USP right now. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is, these slides are now courtesy of Elegant Resorts, who have just done a survey with their consumers. And I've put just a couple of slides in, and I wanted to highlight, when we talk about consumer trends moving forward, if we look at how it might have affected people's budgets, for example, 67% said their budget remains unchanged, 10% said it would even increase. So that's 77% of people are either going to spend the same or more on their next luxury holiday. And when we look at the destinations, you know, we expect Europe to be a strong one because it's on our doorstep. And we know that we've got the UK has come in as a player this summer and possibly for the rest of this year. But if we look at the long haul, the Caribbean is still the top destination for long haul travel. And the next slide, please. And then just looking again, what are the popular holiday destinations? What are they likely to consider? And again, luxury beach holidays comes up at 94%. And I think that's another really strong selling point for the Caribbean. And what's more important than ever to them? Well, it's back to hygiene, destination hygiene, hotels and resorts, their level of hygiene. You know, people will be looking at these things and prioritizing these things as they're looking for their next holiday destination. And if I could have the next slide, please. So this is just a final thought for everybody, in that every adversity, every failure and every heartbreak carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. And I would just like to finish by saying that the UK has so many seeds for the Caribbean market that I think if you spend some time investing in the UK market, you will definitely see the returns. That's everything from me. I hope it was informative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Victoria. Great presentation. We're going to move on to our second panelist, and this is Cheryl Carter. And Cheryl is the director in the United Kingdom for the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. And Cheryl's going to give us from a destination perspective, but a little bit of background about her. She spent more than 20 years as a senior executive in the global tourism and hospitality industry, and she enjoyed extensive professional experience in hospitality and tourism, having worked over the years in luxury hospitality and island activities in a hands-on executive role as well as that of a consultant. As an honors graduate in management from UWI, Cheryl also received her master's from the University of Western Ontario, the Richard Ivey School of Business. She was appointed director in the UK for Barbados Tourism in 2015, and that followed 12 years for her in a similar role in Canada. Cheryl has a track record for turning around tourism markets, and during her years in Canada, she presided over a 47% growth in visitor arrivals to the island. And already during her short time in the UK in 2019, she delivered a new annual record of visitors to that destination. So Cheryl, well done for that. And we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Richard. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me. Can I have the first slide, please? I think going back to what Victoria said just now, there's absolutely no doubt how resilient the UK visitor is. And that has certainly been our experience. So you spoke just now to the record level of visitorship last year. In 2019 against a backdrop of Brexit and the Thomas Cook collapse. And, you know, they've just been so many obstacles along the way. And we were very pleased to be able to deliver that, performance. But, you know, we have to look forward now. We've been faced with COVID. Can we go to the next slide? And despite having over 400,000 seats out of the United Kingdom, we have seen, certainly in the last couple of weeks, that the airlines have reduced their seat capacity significantly across the entire Caribbean. We've seen decreases from as low as 32% to as high as 43%. And that will absolutely have an impact on our ability to get our visitors there. Next slide, please. So if we take a look at some of the consumer attitudes, and I know Victoria shared some with you just now, Certainly the Times readers are saying that, 57% are definitely planning to go on holiday post-lockdown. I think 1 in 3 are already researching options. We have 53% who've put money aside and another 98% that are still considering going this year, late autumn, definitely into the winter period. Next slide, please. But there are 4 priorities that we believe we have to focus on we have to address when we're reaching out to our consumers. I think 40%, again, based on our research, 40% of the consumers are saying government travel advice is very important for them. 35% are looking for offers and discounts. Another 34% are looking for tips on safe destinations. And 30% are looking at what are their rights in the event of cancellation, if they have to terminate their holidays for one reason or another. Next slide, please. So as far as from our perspective, there are 3 real pillars that we need to bear in mind in our communication to our consumers. And again, Victoria touched on them. Flexibility. Flexibility is absolutely key. It speaks to reasonable policies around cancellations, changes to reservations, bookings, refunds, given the hyperdynamic nature of the corona pandemic. Trust for travelers. They need to be comfortable visiting our destinations. They need to trust that the airlines, the hotels, the attractions, the restaurants are all ensuring streamlined, easy to follow and stringent protocols. And value for money. Many of our visitors are now in a less favorable position economically. So even if they're planning their holiday, we must ensure that they derive maximum value from every pound spent on their holiday. Next slide, please. So we just took a look at a few of our short-term tactics, and we're saying 3 to 6. I think more realistically, we're looking at 6 to 9 months when we will begin to see the full relaxation of the COVID restrictions. We believe that we need to focus on a number of our incentive programs to drive business around niches, special interest groups, and SMRFs. And for those of you who don't know about SMRFs, that's the social, military, educational, religious, and fraternal groups. We believe that we need to look at value-added programming, dynamic packaging of destination product. So culinary attractions. In Barbados, a great example of that is the Rediscover Barbados card, which allows set prices for meals. And we need to look at wider discounting programs, certainly in the short term, air credits and so on, which need to be offered to stimulate traffic. We believe that the VFR traffic or diaspora is poised to lead the return to the Caribbean. We have seen that from a destination perspective. Our first flights commence this weekend, and based on what we have heard, the first few flights are actually chock-a-block, many people trying to get home. We spoke about the importance of the travel agent, and we too have curated a special incentive and loyalty program for the travel agent community, and we'll be spending a lot more time and focus on developing that, the Barbados Elite Club and the Barbados Friends and Family loyalty program. Next slide, please. We believe again that there are a number of niches. People will travel for leisure, but people have specific likes, and that's what they'll be looking for. The Barbados proposition right now for culinary, as an example, will encapsulate taking ownership of our food and beverage heritage as a birthplace of rum and the celebrated culinary capital of the Caribbean. We have an annual food and rum festival, and many other islands celebrate food in a similar fashion. We look at, we have the opportunity to own the health and wellness niche. We have the opportunity through the freshness, the purity, and the low to no chemical presence in our food stock, in our crops, with the will to position the Caribbean as the organic center of the earth. That's something I've always been very passionate about. I think, using more local produce, but using farm to table, fresh food, and organic. We are essentially the original organic center. And I think it's something that we really do need to capitalize on. Mindfulness and wellness. I can't think of a better platform following a year of COVID. And I believe, again, across the Caribbean, with the wealth of practitioners and the expertise that we have in this sector, as well as all the facilities, the hotel plants that cater to this type of a hotel, post-COVID, we have a tremendous opportunity to grow business in this niche. Next slide, please. So in the short to medium term, we speak about airlift, and we know that there'll be a number of smaller islands in the Caribbean which will suffer as a result of not having direct flights. We believe that there's an opportunity to create a hub and spoke. Maybe look at creating, for the larger carriers, look at creating hubs in the north and the south of the Caribbean with feeders to those islands. And I'm thinking specifically of islands, certainly the south, like Tobago, Grenada, which would normally benefit from direct service. We can move forward. I'm not going to touch the Liat situation because I know that's still very fluid. According to TripAdvisor, we've also seen that searches and queries for experiences have been increasing in popularity. Family-friendly experiences are leading the way. People are looking for classes and workshops, water sports, food and wine experiences are also critical. I think in the UK, 33% of our travelers are saying that their motivation when holidaying is to gain unforgettable experiences, but they're looking for a level of authenticity and they want to connect with locals and cultures. That's something that we do very well in the Caribbean. And so when we drill down in this data, we're seeing that in the 12 weeks leading up to a trip, the experience queries are 8 times greater than queries for air travel, and they're 3 times greater for accommodation. So I think that underscores how critical the experience is to a traveler. Festivals are obviously a key part of this. So we look at things like Carnival, Crop Over, World Creole Festival. And I think that, you know, there was a platform that we had created in Barbados this year, the whole We Gathering, where we were bringing the diaspora and friends of Barbados back to the island to rediscover the island parish by parish, starting in St. Lucie in January. I think those are the types of concepts that we can look at across the region to engage and to embrace our respective diasporas. Next slide, please. So with the restrictions around COVID, we believe that it's likely that travelers will definitely opt to stay longer in destination versus having several quick visits to multiple destinations. This phenomenon that we refer to as slow travel is considered to be, you know, more immersive, more international, and it works at a much slower pace as people have longer dwelling times. We've also seen the emergence of nomadic travel, which is usually geared to the digital professionals who live and work out of their suitcases, and they have embraced travel as part of their lifestyle, and this is becoming increasingly popular. We're seeing a number of islands. Just last week, I think the Prime Minister of Barbados launched the Barbados 12-month passport. We've subsequently seen a number of islands. I think today, Antigua launched a similar initiative. I understand that Bermuda is looking at a similar initiative. So obviously, nomadic travel is another opportunity that we need to go after. And the essence of the nomadic traveler is that they also seek out accommodation, which tends to be self-catering. So there's a real connection between that caliber of traveler and our villa offering, our holiday homes, our condos, etc. We also have to look at our insurance packages and make sure that they're designed to accommodate our traveler. And again, I know that Aruba, I know Barbados and certainly Jamaica are currently exploring different types of insurance instruments which are specific to COVID, and they can lend the much sought after reassurance that travelers need when they're looking at booking a post-COVID holiday. Behind the gateway markets and opportunities in the Republic of Ireland and in Scotland, where economies, in spite of the short to medium term shocks, they're showing positive signs of recovery, and they're showing a level of resilience. We're also seeing a very positive attitude in these markets by travelers to return to holidays as soon as it's possible to do so. For Ireland, we know that Aer Lingus also provides service to JFK, which is another hub. So there's an opportunity to fly from Ireland via the United States once things go back to some level of normalcy to come through the Caribbean. Mainland Europe, we believe, also provides a huge opportunity to drive the behind the gateway traffic. To your point, Richard, you did say that in your opening. And certainly service from Heathrow Airport provides that seamless transfer. Next slide, please. So we think it's important also to prioritize the eco-friendliness and the sustainability of the Caribbean products, from nature to flora and fauna to social integration of the tourism industry. We've seen popular types of travel, including vegan hotels, no footprint travel, farm to table, and many of those complement our culinary offerings. We think it's a key consideration when we're looking at the younger generation of travelers, especially the Gen X and the millennials, who will soon take the position of the baby boomers and older generations, which are currently our key demographic in the region. With a greater desire for authentic experiences, sustainability must also consider the social sustainability. Visitors are keen on patronizing experiences and activities and venues which allow them to interact with the local population and the communities, and they're not seen to be, to be separate. On the ecological side, I think if we use, again, Barbados as an example, we already have a strong foundation to build on, and there are many other islands that are following suit or already have their ecological programs. But from the Barbados perspective, we have the largest number of Green Globe certified properties. We've instituted a ban on single-use plastics. We've established a marine reserve conservation area. And then we have other conservation schemes like the Barbados Sea Turtle Project, just to name a few. Dominica is another destination which we have seen take advantage of this long-term trend. They've positioned, Dominica's positioned itself as in the Caribbean as a nature isle. And we believe that there's also a big opportunity for us to do more to encourage twin center holidays from this part of the world. So a holiday, a few weeks in a Barbados and a Dominica, or Barbados and a Grenada. You notice I'm saying Barbados all the time. That is probably because of my responsibility here. Not to be forgotten, obviously, is the tech and innovation. I think the world has become a much more of a low touch, or in some cases, no touch place due to the COVID-19. And the business, work, and home life has had to evolve rapidly to include greater adoption of technology and other innovations. Communicating with our customers and our travel trade will be quite different in a post-COVID world. And again, Victoria alluded to that in her presentation. It's therefore critical for us to ensure that our destinations are on the cutting edge and we are ready to deliver relative to our infrastructure, an experience that prioritizes safety and minimal interaction due to the risk of COVID. For engaging the critical travel agent community, and believe me, they are critical, technology and innovation will also be very important to and central to our success. Many companies are maybe reluctant in the short term to release agents for fam trips and other sales activity that would normally be done in person. But we believe that with technology, we can bridge that gap until such time as the confidence returns. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, that I spoke to the technology just now. Next slide, please. So in summary, we believe that the next few months, there are a few things that we need to focus on. We definitely need to focus on those three key pillars when we're communicating. The pillars of flexibility, trust, and value. In the short term, we need to amplify our incentive programming around the four core niche areas: the romance, health and wellness, soft adventure, and culinary. We must prioritize experiences or sustainability and the diversification of our destinations' traditional tourism proposition. We must leverage our technology in this increasingly digital and low-touch world, and we must maintain a robust approach to driving demand from behind the gateway territories, Ireland, Scotland, in this instance, and definitely Europe, in order to satisfy the lift that we're successful in securing from the London and Manchester airports in the future. Thank you very much.
Great job, Cheryl. Thank you for a very thorough and detailed presentation. We're going to go on to the tour operator perspective of our panel now. I'd like to introduce Natasha Griffin, who is the founder and principal of Simply Caribbean. A little bit of background: before founding Simply Caribbean, Natasha had 15 years of experience in investment banking in the United Kingdom, but her family is originally from the Caribbean and she had a natural affinity for the region. So Simply Caribbean was a natural extension, and that was born in 2008 out of the concept of increased personalization and customer focus for travelers to the islands. As a specialist tour company, Simply Caribbean enjoys an especially high repeat business, and it was awarded the best producing specialist tour operator at the 2019 St. Lucia Annual Gala Awards. Over to you, Natasha.
Lovely, thank you, Richard. Right, just a little bit about us. I think Richard's covered it mainly, but we are a small boutique tour operator based in southeast of England. We specialise only in the Caribbean, so we only sell Caribbean holidays. Sometimes we put them together with America, but our clients, it's 100%, everything has to have the Caribbean element. Sorry, could I just say the next slide? We're mainly direct sales, so we don't use travel agents, but we do have some other tour operators that do come through us and work with us. Our most popular islands are St. Lucia, Antigua, the Grenadines, Barbados, Jamaica, and Grenada. Most of our clients are aged 45 and over with an extremely large disposable income. Some travel up to 3 times a year to the Caribbean with us, with an average spend of £4,150 per person. Most of our clients are flying premium economy and club class, and 80% of our business is repeat and recommendations. Next slide, please. How did COVID affect our business in the UK travel sector? Well, it was literally like a hand grenade. In March, when it all happened, we had to act quickly to give our clients confidence. So first, we had to get them back from the islands. That was a lot of mess with the airlines. And then what we decided to do with our clients was, instead of them calling us and getting bogged down with the lines being engaged, we called all of our clients that had bookings, which in turn kept our goodwill and our integrity with them intact. With our clients, we have such an outstanding relationship with them that we managed to move 94% of our affected bookings. Now, all of these were in the Caribbean. So most of our bookings moved. We moved them to later in the year, November, December, and through to next year, even up to December 2021. And why this is so positive for the Caribbean is because all those bookings moved. People didn't want to cancel their holidays. They wanted to support the Caribbean, and that is due to the love of the Caribbean that they have. We had to refund 4% of clients within 28 days due to our package travel regulations, but all of those clients came back and they said, we cannot wait to spend our money with you again going to the Caribbean. So out of the negative, there's definitely some positive, because we've still managed to retain those clients. Next slide, please. So we've been talking to clients in the last few weeks. Ours are extremely friendly. Some of them travel up to 3 times a year to the Caribbean. So we've been calling them and asking them what their concerns are. Now, currently, with the situation, there's a lot of concerns about not being able to get the testing in the UK. So some of our Caribbean islands, it's 7 days they have to have the test for. So that is causing a bit of a problem, but what we're hoping is, because of these new regulations have come out, that we're going to have more private testing centres that kind of come to the forefront to allow people to travel. There are other concerns about COVID-19 and our American tourists. That seems to be quite a big one at the moment. Concerns about arriving at destination with people on the flight that haven't had a test, where some destinations are saying that you can test in on island. That's causing a bit of a problem. So if someone has the virus on the flight and they haven't had a test, but you have had a test, so people are a little bit concerned about that. And then they're obviously worried about, you know, on their holiday, not having the full experience and having to stay at the hotels. The problems, like I said, was the expense of the testing and the fact of we can't seem to get testing that easily. In the UK, there's a lot of testing centres, but they are for our key workers. So if you're a key worker, you can get tested really easily, and their family members. But if you're thinking of your holiday, you have to go to a private clinic. So what we're trying to do at the moment is put together a list of all the private clinics that our clients can use to get over to the so they can get tested to get over to the Caribbean. But the testing time is currently around 96 hours at best, because a lot of it is postal. And a lot of people still are a little bit nervous about going up to London, where it's very quick to get the test. Best solution in the short term is, like I said, we're hoping for more private companies to start testing. And maybe the drive-through testing centres, that the government will be able to open this up for people to be able to pay for a test. Next slide, please. The positives, because there's always some positives with the negative. Bookings for 2021 are strong and continue to grow, albeit at a slower pace. They were already really strong before this happened. So the Caribbean was really growing in popularity. And year on year, we were already up when we had to slow things down in March by about 45%. So it was going to be an extremely exciting year for us. Clients have kept their funds within our business. So that means they've kept their funds within the Caribbean. They're waiting to be able to book again. We have clients sending us emails just asking generally the updates on how things are looking, when we think that people will be able to go again. Clients love the Caribbean and generally want to support the islands and their tourism. And that was a thing. So when we were calling clients to ask them about moving their bookings, they all were saying how much they love the Caribbean people. They want to support the hoteliers. They want to support the islands. And like I said, our clients have a spend of around £4,000 per person. So there's a lot of money that's sitting there with goodwill for going forward. So we have clients wanting to book for Q4 and definitely early 2021. People are holding fire at the moment, and I think that's a lot to do with the airlines as well, because the airlines are cancelling flights. We're not really sure what's happening at the moment, so we're sort of holding fire, and we're a little bit nervous as a tour operator, because let's say we had people going in August and the client's still hoping to go, and then all of a sudden you're getting an email and BA have just cancelled that flight. So once again, you have to then rescue that client and try and move them to October or to next year. Other positives, hotel offers are strong and we are selling, and clients are happy with the pricing. So there hasn't been any problem with clients asking for rock bottom bargains or, you know, trying to get on the wave of this because of COVID. They have been very happy, and we've had some great offers through from our hotel partners. And I actually met with a hotel partner today for coffee, and they said, what do you think of our price? And I said, hold fire, you've got a great offer on. We're managing to sell it, so I don't think we should be undercutting at the moment, because they're good offers. Budgets, are we seeing an increase or a decrease? The same. There's not a problem at the moment. Like I said, this may change once everything comes back, and all depending, you know, who has money to travel. So we will see how that goes. Next slide, please. What are the key things motivating the consumer currently? What I noticed, actually, Richard asked me this question, and then I looked at the book and I thought, yeah, you know, there's a pattern here, there's a trend. We've booked weddings, 50th birthdays, anniversaries, honeymoons, they are still coming through. People still want their big celebrations. So I really think that's something that we all need to really focus on, and maybe packages for those, and we will really be pushing those. But clients do love an occasion. What can our Caribbean hotels do to build new business at the moment? You know, it's extremely hard, but I think we need to keep in touch with clients and tour operators with updated safety protocols and offers. So for example, we had a wedding group that wanted to go to a hotel in St. Lucia. They were a bit nervous about what was going to be happening further on in the year. The hotel sent us a really comprehensive document. We sent to the clients, it put their minds at rest, that the hotel were all over it. Also, showing these positives in webinars, just walking around the resort and newsletters. I think that all helps, and it helps us as tour operators, because with clients that are so focused on the Caribbean, we can just send that out in a newsletter And if it's like a 5-minute walk around the, people like that. They actually like to see what's happening at their favourite resorts that they're missing. What are clients looking for with their accommodation? Well, we've discussed with clients, they're interested in larger grounds. So they're talking about where the beds are on the beach, next to other people, space away from other guests, basically. And also a lot of people like the cottage type rooms. Villas and apartments are proving popular, but I don't think they're any more popular than the hotels with larger grounds, because I think people are planning to come out of their room, have their space on the beach. Also dining. Clients have sort of talked about the dining options, especially outside and beachfront options. A hotel's going to be lengthening and staggering dining times. Are hotels going to be offering free room service at this time? So there's lots of sort of different ideas of maybe, you know, what you could do and to feed through to us. And it's just keeping all the tour operators regularly up to date with hotels' safety protocols. And this really helps us to keep our clients updated. Next slide, please. Flexible cancellation policies. We have found that the hotel partners have been really good in this respect. There's, you know, no problem here. We just have to make sure that what's on your website is exactly the same as what's on the tour operator contract, because I did have that with a couple of clients. They said, well, the hotel's saying we can cancel within a certain amount of days. Now we have the added problem of the airline cancellation policy, and they're not being as good with us. So that's something that we are working towards. But you are being ever so good with your cancellation policy, but we just need to make sure it's the same. Hotel prepayment. I was actually watching a webinar with Travel Mole, and I didn't actually realise as a tour operator that other tour operators weren't paying in advance until this all came out. We have always paid our hotel partners in advance of our client stays. And I really think that it's important that all tour operators are paying in advance, because what is a bit of a concern is we have left money in all our partner hotels for future bookings. So we are leaving ourselves quite open. If we've put all our money in and we've got all these large tour operators that haven't paid, and if some of our hoteliers can't survive, then we could lose our money in effect. So for us, this is an unacceptable practice, and we don't understand when in the UK, the client pays in advance, and they pay a long time in advance if it's if the holiday's a long way off. So really, everybody should be on the same page and having exactly the same rules. Next slide, please. For all of us here, this has been the most challenging of situations, and we're still working through the difficulties that COVID has dealt us. I truly believe that if we persevere, adapt, and believe in our products, we will survive this. We need to show our clients and our potential clients that we're confident and passionate about our hotels and islands, and we believe in what the individual governments are trying to implement to keep everyone safe and protected. I personally think the Caribbean islands have done an outstanding job in this respect, and clients have commented on this non-stop. They all say the Caribbean is possibly the safest place in the world to be. The European consumer wants to get back to some kind of normality, and they are desperate to travel again, especially to the Caribbean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natasha. We appreciate your very informative presentation. We're going to go on now finally to the press perspective, and I'd like to introduce Daniela Wagner of Travel Weekly and the Jacobs Media Group. The Jacobs Media Group is the parent of Travel Weekly, and Daniela works with clients around the world delivering strategic services and market intelligence for their teams. Benefiting from an unrivaled network within the UK travel industry, Daniela and her teams are founder members of the Global Travel and Tourism Resilience Council and established leaders in the field of resilience and crisis management. Prior to joining Jacobs Media Group in 2014, Daniela worked for brands which included the World Travel and Tourism Council, Octopus Travel, and eWaterways, and she's also a director for Europe, Middle East, and Africa at the PATA Trade Association. Daniela, glad to have you with us. We're going to have to keep a pretty close eye on the time because Vanessa's going to be all over us if we run on too long, but we're looking forward to hearing your story. Over to you.
Right. Thank you very much, Richard, and good evening, good afternoon to all of you around the Caribbean and in the UK. I will be very quick with my comments. As you can imagine, the last few months have been an incredibly busy time for Travel Weekly. We've sought very hard to support the industry through webinars and interviews and trying to keep especially our industry partners up to date with all the many changing aspects of what COVID has, presented us as challenges. And it's certainly been a very difficult time, but I would agree with all the last speakers that right now it's really a time not to dwell on the past, but to look at, what are the opportunities for the future? How can we navigate through this together? And how can we work together to actually hopefully come out with, a better tourism industry than we went into the situation with. The UK had a lot of challenges, and whilst I agree with Victoria about the fact that our leaders have handled the situation politically as well as possible, there was huge uncertainty about where people could travel, whether they could travel at all, and that uncertainty, I think, has really led to a lot of a lack of confidence amongst consumers. Just in recent weeks, the government has, of course, come out with the lists of places that could be travelled to. There were two different types of lists, which also created some confusion. And I think that right now in the UK, this question of confidence and certainty about information is really, really, really key. But it's also what provides a really good opportunity for travel agents. And we've been following all the consumer and trade research very carefully. And one of our partners, icelolly.com, showed that actually 28% of respondents still intend to go on holiday in the summer, but that a much larger number were looking at the winter of 20 and 2021. A lot has been said during this webinar about the importance of the travel agent. And I think, one thing that's going to come out of this loud and clear is that actually the travel agents will be really the trusted partners of the consumers, and that they'll almost be like, we'll go to them like we go to solicitors for advice, because again, even though each government is trying to put out clear information about where people can travel, how they can travel, there's still, even amongst us who are travel specialists, a real lack of knowledge and understanding. What's going to happen when you get somewhere? How are you going to get through an airport? What's it actually going to be like when you get to the hotel? So I think that the trust in travel agents is going to be much higher than even in the national media, which is also obviously largely responsible for promoting destinations. The things that Travelport is coming up with on the Traveller Confidence Index has shown that there's really a dramatic upturn in travel from the UK based off the search data. And I think, we've talked a lot about bookings here, but whilst people couldn't do bookings, there's also been a lot of an analysis of what they're looking to do in terms of travel. And certainly the Caribbean has been very high on that search list. And what do UK travellers want? They want to make sure that where they're going is going to be safe. They want to know what's going to be open. I think that, there is this very strong historical bond between the UK and the Caribbean anyway, which is based around all the great things that the Caribbean has to offer. And there's huge pent-up demand, but people will want to go back to places that they already know about and that they feel safe in. And I think that also the feedback that we're going to get from the first wave of travellers going abroad is going to be very important in basically encouraging other people to book their holidays, saying, actually, once you're there, it still feels the same as it ever did before, going on holiday to a really great place. And I think especially when we look at the winter sun bookings, and no one's really addressed this specific point, is that there's after all the seasons of not being able to travel, there's going to be huge competition between destinations as to how they can attract the travelers that they're willing to spend money and are willing to travel. And I think the Caribbean is perfectly placed. There's going to be massive resistance against going to the States this winter. So, you know, people are certainly not going to be going to Florida. They're still nervous about going to certain parts of Asia. They're nervous about going to certain parts of the Middle East. So actually, you know, destinations in the Caribbean have a fantastic opportunity to really home in on that competition and say, we want to be front of mind and we want to be, we want to attract those travelers. And again, you know, what are the criteria going to be? It's about social distancing. It's about the access to the outdoor and open spaces. And also, one of the points that Carol Hay, who's a friend and colleague of mine, made yesterday was that they want to make sure that sustainability is really an important concept within the destination, and that their holidays do not come at the expense of the well-being of the local population. So making sure that they're going somewhere where people in destination, the people who live there, are also looked after. And I've talked a little bit about this competition level. I think the prospects for the Caribbean are very good, you know, and that hopefully very quickly there will be at least a return to the 2019 levels. Lots of flights are being announced as resuming. I think there's also the challenge, though, about flight cancellations, and I've seen this also on the short haul European level, that things that look like they're available then turn out not to be available. But again, that's where, you know, the relationship with the travel agent and the tour operator come in, because hopefully that gives a little bit more reassurance to the traveler. And you know, how can the Caribbean maximize this position? You need to make sure that you're front of mind with the UK travel trade. You need to make sure that there's clarity, collaboration and communication with your partners, collaboration with each other, both on a destination level and in destination, and also real clarity about what can be done and how it can be done. And I think the Caribbean has done a fantastic job in you know, ensuring that you have really good COVID safety protocols in place. And also you were very quick. A lot of the Caribbean destinations were very quick to actually announce their reopening strategies. And amongst those were obviously Martinique and also Jamaica, but also other destinations around the Caribbean. And the way that we can hopefully help with that is, lots of you know about what Travel Weekly does, but we are, you know, one of the leading travel publications in the UK, and very much have been the lifeline for travel agents and tour operators in recent months. Sorry, I just realized, Richard, that I haven't been asking for the next slide, and I very much hope that on the presentation these have been pushed forward. But you know, we have been very very active in what we've done to serve the industry, and we'll continue to do that. And you all have fantastic stories to tell, and even if you haven't got the marketing budgets right now, remember that lots of suppliers, lots of destinations are going to be out there trying to tell their stories. So do make sure that you share your press releases on a really regular basis, that you make as much noise as possible, tell stories which appeal to the imagination of consumers around authenticity and you know, what is on offer, and really talk to us as your communication partners and as your marketing partners. And then just to wrap up, I would say, Richard mentioned at the beginning that we also launched this brand, the Global Travel and Tourism Resilience Council. Sorry, this is my final slide now, which we set up some years ago to basically create a platform for the public and private sectors to be able to talk to each other and to share best practices and examples of how we can work together, specifically in times like these where the world is in a very difficult place. And we're very proud to have done some great work with all sorts of different destinations like Nepal and Jordan and South Africa, and also with Jamaica. And we work very closely with the Resilience Centre in Jamaica, which I know CHTA is also partnering with. And again, looking at, how can we all learn from what's going on, and how can we share examples and best practices, and hopefully come out stronger and better on the other side. So really those are the thoughts that I want to share. But I think together, as long as we talk to each other, and as long as we have clear messaging that goes to the market, I think that we have a very good chance of a very good recovery, because people really, really are desperate to get back to their former lives, and especially to go on holiday. Thank you very much.
Great job, Daniela. Thank you very much indeed. We've come to the end of our panel. Vanny, can I pass it back to you on the Q&A?
Yes, sir. We have one question, and outside of that, I actually want to bring up a few things, just kind of like to bring top of mind for those that may have not received it. But the one question that we have is, what recommendations could be given for budget accommodation, apartments, guest houses, which may not have enough rooms to indulge a tour operator or travel agent for them to reach out to the UK market in order to attract booking opportunities?
I'm going to ask Cheryl to speak to that, because she's got a lot of experience with a lot of the small properties like that.
Hi, thank you, Richard. One of the channels that we've used that we found that was quite effective, we worked with an OTA quite closely, and we have actually done dedicated campaigns with them to target the intimate hotels. We find that the OTAs have a much wider scope of accommodation, and actually in an over 2-week campaign, we were surprised at the positive results. So what we've done is we would approach it very much as you would a co-op activation, where the destination, we supported a campaign where each of the properties put a fixed amount in, and the destination put a sum in as well. And we ran that promotion over a 2-week period, specifically geared at driving business to the small properties. And we've done that on occasion behind specific gateways. We've done it in London, and we've also run similar campaigns with the departure cities out of Northern England and Scotland, so that we could drive business over the Manchester gateway. But there's also the opportunity through a number of consortia. There's some of the smaller agents who are very keen to look at ways to drive business. We also focus on the Smurfs group that you heard me mention earlier, fraternities, in terms of small groups, reunions, people who are traveling, girlfriend getaways, and so on. They tend to like that type of boutique offering. So those are just a few of the tactics that we've used here in the market.
Excellent, excellent. Vanny, can I ask a question, or you got some others?
You actually can ask a question. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I'm going to ask the panel generally if there are thoughts. There's a lot of discussion going on in the Caribbean about tour operator prepayment right now. And some of the panelists alluded briefly to that. Victoria, could I ask you to comment on the policy being discussed by the Caribbean Hotel Association, and how you think we can bring that to success?
Yeah, I think right now there's an awful lot of change across the travel market, and I think now is the time, to make those changes. And I think if the islands in the Caribbean stand firm together, then there's absolutely no reason why tour operators shouldn't pay when, as Natasha said in her presentation, the clients are paying, I think it's about 6 weeks before they travel. So I don't see why the hotel should bankroll when they're actually having to pay out on food, they're having to provide the accommodation. They shouldn't really be made to wait until 30 days afterwards, especially as we've seen, over this pandemic, where some tour operators have then moved those goalposts and are paying even later, which puts the hotels under too much pressure.
Okay, thank you for that. We have another question which has come in. which is, whilst there are limited flights in August, September, and October, does the panel know if there are still seats available into the Caribbean on BA, Virgin, or whoever? Anybody want to take that?
I'll take that. They're on the GDS, so they're showing, the flights are showing every day. So what we think that BA are going to do, they're going to see how busy they are and what flights are going to cancel. So at the moment, we have clients booked on so many flights in October, but we don't know until BA tell us. So you can look to book a flight, but you don't know whether that flight's actually going to happen.
So it's a very last minute fluid situation.
Yeah, it's a bit of a concern, really.
Right. Daniela, anything you want to comment on that?
I think it's I think the airlines have had to a certain extent. I mean, I'm not a specialist in this area, but from the feedback that we've had, airlines have kind of had to go down a certain route. You know, they had to start planning and securing slots and scheduling even before they knew really who they were going to be able to open up to and where people were going to go. And so I think there's going to be quite a complicated few months of both short haul and long haul flights appearing to be available or looking as if they're completely sold out for every single day. I mean, that's something that you're seeing in the short haul market at the moment. It's not clear. And I think some airlines themselves, you know, have kind of had to hedge their bets and say, well, we're going to try this strategy. But I would agree with Natasha that especially for long haul destinations, you know, they're going to have to then look at their load factors. But of course, that provides a massive challenge in destination, because what do you then do? How do you secure hotel bookings and other services to back that up? And what flexibility can the service providers in destination then give to accommodate those changes, because it's not the customer's fault if their flight for October suddenly is going to leave on that day. But you know, what I think is that customers at the moment are, there's a lot of bad will over things like the refund situation that there has been, but also there's a lot of goodwill because people want to look to the future and they want to go somewhere. And I think that is that collaboration between the intermediary, the travel agent, the consumer, and the end destination, and really open communication and honesty about what the challenges are and how to go overcome them. That's the only thing that's going to get us through to the other side of this. That's my view on it. And so everyone's going to have to be a bit more patient and a bit more understanding about the situation.
You're exactly right.
If we can just ask everybody for a few minutes, we have about 2 questions that I think kind of like, so we appreciate everybody sticking around for a little bit just so we can address these, but just a follow-up with regards to the tour operator discussions and the renegotiation of agreements. I know Barbados has taken a lead role in getting tour operators to prepay. What has been the response so far from UK tour operators to hotels in Barbados?
Cheryl?
It's been a mixed bag. Obviously, as you said earlier, the small operators that they're used to prepaying. It's not an issue for them, but there has been pushback from some of the larger operators. I saw an email just today from a large operator based in Europe who wrote to us to express their dissatisfaction with the position that the hotels have taken. The reality is, as I said to the hotel reps yesterday, the governments of the islands become the bankers of last resort if these businesses go under, and it's not our responsibility. And I absolutely agree with you, Natasha. We are not here to bankroll commercial entities. It's supposed to be a partnership.
Yeah. So the partnership, what you're saying is that the partnership is going to require prepayment.
The partnership should require prepayment.
Yeah.
And certainly just to follow up for those hoteliers that are joining us, CHTA, as of, I think it was yesterday, we circulated a communication to our hotel database advising of the interest from CHTA to put out hopefully what should be a regional policy as it relates to tour operators contract and seeking specifically the support and feedback from the hotels to see if there is enough interest for us to proceed with that. We have a question about what is the feeling right now regards to the 14-day self-quarantine.
Vanessa? Sorry, no, but I beg your pardon. Victoria?
Thank you. So you say it meant the 14-day quarantine when you go back into the UK or when you go into the destination?
It's not specific, but if you can address from either perspective.
Okay, I mean, for the UK now, we don't have a 14-day quarantine on arrival from the majority of the islands in the Caribbean. So we've now had these kind of travel gateways opening up. So that's excellent. I think there will be hesitation from people that are going for a 7 or 14 night stay if they have to spend, a couple of days quarantining of their holiday. So I think what we need to be able to make sure that we can get testing done before you travel, so that you know that when you go on holiday, you start your holiday as soon as you kind of arrive into the destination.
And the concern about going back, so the quarantine going back into the UK, the person has.
When you come back into the UK now, if you're coming back from the Caribbean, I think that there are a couple of destinations like America where if you were traveling back to the UK from America, then you would have to self-quarantine. But if you're coming back from Barbados or St. Lucia, you don't have to quarantine.
Okay. I'm going to take one more question and then we'll be wrapping it up. How open do you think the UK traveler is reacting to the Caribbean request to wear masks around the resorts, understanding that whilst sun lounging and dining, it wouldn't be necessary?
Who wants to take that? Anyone?
I'll take that.
Go ahead.
I don't actually think it's going to be a problem because we're introducing on the 25th of July in the UK, we're all wearing masks in every shop. So it's going to become the norm. And we did come to this conclusion. I think our government came a little bit late to the mask wearing, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. That's not something that I think it's going to be part of the norm for all of us worldwide. And I think clients will be more than happy. They'll be getting used to it from the UK anyway from next week.
I would just, sorry, Richard, can I just add to that? I've just traveled through the whole of France on my first holiday, and France has been wearing masks now for 3 or 4 months, and it's just, as Natasha says, I think everyone's going to be doing it. And, once you get to your restaurant table, you take it off, and it's no big deal. And as long as people feel comfortable with it and everybody does it, I think that's the important thing, that there's got to be some kind of conformity. Otherwise, it does feel a bit odd if you're walking in somewhere and, 5 people have got them on and then 6 people haven't. But I think that there will be more and more standard protocols like that, which people will just say, well, it's like, having to go through temperature screening in Asia when you go through an airport. It's just what you do.
And it's very, very important as well, and the data has shown that as well, that it's pivotal that hotels and destinations have all of the information about the requirements and the protocols that the visitor has to go abide when they visit the destination and the property itself, from the moment that they start looking into the property and the destinations. So having that information available at all of the touch points is extremely necessary. Before we wrap up, there were a few comments inquiring about insurance. I do also want to point out that CHTA has launched a member-exclusive travel protection plan that is administered by TripMate, which would facilitate the provision initially to customers in the US of insurance that would be inclusive in most of the instances for coverage of pandemics. So our website has all of the information. Just scroll through member benefits and you will have access to that information.
TripMate are hoping to make that available to the UK as well, is my understanding.
They have indicated that if for hotels that have most of their business from the UK, to please contact TripMate and they would make available any offers that would be applicable to that market. We've gone over a little bit of our established time. I do want to thank our panelists today for making their time and joining us during their evening with us. Richard, again, thank you so much for putting together such an insightful webinar. After the webinar today, you will all be receiving a survey that we ask that you complete to see how we can make this CHTA Live series better, and also what other topics you would like to see. As a reminder, tomorrow we have a special session, our first of 3 series that will be discussing entrepreneurship in food and beverage. That session starts at 4:30, ends at 6, and then at 6 p.m. we take it live on Facebook at the CHTA Facebook page for Liming with Taste. And our next week CHTA Live series goes on Thursday, minimizing risk with waivers and protocols. Another reminder, the video recording for today's presentation will be distributed within 24 hours of this presentation. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in our next session. Have a great afternoon and a good evening.
Thank you.